Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. And we are on, I think it's week 6 of our Crucial Conversation series. Remember, if you've been following along, you would have heard me say last week that we are moving into explore other paths, right? Well, there's a slight adjustment. As I was preparing for today's session, I realized there is a missing link that we need to cover first, and it's too important to skip. So before we can explore anyone else's story properly, we need to make sure that we're working from the same page or the same purpose. Otherwise, we end up listening only to argue, to defend or correct, not to truly understand. So today, we're focusing on how to create a mutual purpose. Because when you get this right, the rest of the conversation, it flows. It becomes a lot easier and safer and definitely far more productive. If you are catching up, all the previous sessions are around 10. They were 15 minutes, but the last one was about 18 minutes. Please go back and watch them. They are, they build perfectly to this very, very point. Now, let's get into our quick check-in. Drop me a tick if you've practiced stepping out and rebuilding safety. Give me a different kind of quizzical emoji if you've kind of been thinking about it, but you didn't have the opportunity. And you know the go. Give me a stop sign if the week kind of got away from you and you're giving yourself some grace to restart. I know I've been traveling for 6 weeks now, and a lot of mine have kind of sat between a and a stop sign with a few little ticks along the way. So I get that. Now, also ask yourself, have I been aiming to win the conversation, or have I been aiming to connect? Now, this is only a question for you. And it doesn't matter, if you share it with anybody else or it's for anybody else. But these two questions, have I been aiming to win the conversation or have I been aiming to connect? The distinction matters more than you actually realize. Now, you can be skilled at speaking up. If you've been following me for a while or working with me, you would know that me speaking publicly or speaking up and out was a shocking case for me. I would vomit, I would feel faint, I'd even passed out at one particular stage. So I went through Toastmasters, learning to speak up. You can be skilled at stepping out when your emotions spike. I don't know about you, fight, fright, freeze, fawn, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. When the emotions spike, I've gone through the whole emotions of those. But what I'm asking you to think about is when you can be skilled at speaking up, you can be skilled at stepping out. But if people feel like you only care about your own outcome, they will eventually dig in their heels, or worse, they're kind of going to disappear. And that's why we're talking about mutual purpose. Mutual purpose is what turns that confrontation actually into collaboration. It says, I'm not just fighting for my point, I'm actually fighting for us. And it's kind of that bridge between honesty and safety. So here on my board today, this is what I've mapped out. And some of the things you're going to ask yourself when we're looking for mutual purpose, creating mutual purpose, we're going to ask, what do I want for me? What do I want for them? And what do I want for the relationship? Before you even utter a word, open your mouth, before you do anything, you need to clarify on these 3 things. Otherwise, you're actually speaking from ego. It's about you, not the alignment. Now, ego is good for us in so many ways, but when it's only focused on you, that's not healthy. And so to do that, there are some steps for you to practice. If you've always been one that wants to win the conversation, or is looking at, you're used to just telling people what's doing, and you're finding relationships are breaking down, things aren't completed, success isn't as strong for you, or if not, it's short, it's not a long-term success. These are some things that I invite you to work towards. And these are the steps to create a mutual purpose. Just looking at my writing on the board, it's a bit messy. So the steps to create mutual purpose. You're going to commit to seek mutual purpose. You're going to seek to commit it, right? You want to make sure we're here for the right reason. You're going to recognize the purpose behind the strategy. There's always an agenda, right? A strategy has an agenda. It could be win-win, win-lose, lose-lose. It could be anything. But there's always a purpose behind what you're trying to achieve, what they're trying to achieve. Mutual purpose is you want to actually recognize this. If you can't come to a mutual purpose, invent one. We want to know that we're coming into these meetings, that they're going to be productive, engaging. You can talk about the fact that, when we come together, we want to know it's going to be purposeful. Remember, create the shared pool of meaning. The shared pool of meaning is our time is precious. We're coming into this meeting. We want it to be purposeful and productive. And the mutual purpose for that is for us to talk about it rather than argue about it. So you're inventing a mutual purpose. We want to come into this meeting to find consensus, to have a positive conversation, have a healthy disagreement, debate it out. Your purpose, mutual purpose. You can brainstorm new strategies together. Remember, in brainstorming, there is so many different ways to achieve. And just a little note, next we'll actually be stepping into exploring others' paths. But first, we actually need to get this foundation right, which is creating a mutual purpose. Now, when we're thinking about committing to seek a mutual purpose, we're not pushing forward unless both sides, the needs are respected. So what do? You slow down. You check in. You say, I want a way forward that works for us both. And when you're looking at recognize the purpose behind the strategy, conflict, unfortunately, often happens because our strategies clash, even though the deeper goals are the same. If you've had the fortune to read this book, there are some brilliant analogies in there where we're arguing over the same thing. We just haven't defined the rules. I love this book so much, I cannot tell you. So often our goals are the same. Our goals, to live life, to live a healthy, harmonious, happy life, to be paid well, to feel valued, to eat, drink, be merry, whatever it is that you choose to do, sleep, rinse, repeat, sing kumbaya. Everybody's version of what a good life is different. And so defining some of those, you define what those deeper goals are. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull back and really, really get curious about the bigger purpose that's sitting underneath. Why is this happening? Remember, thinking about the root, not the cause. If there's something that's happening, what's at the bottom of it? Now, number 3, inventing a new mutual purpose if needed. If your goals seem totally different, step back even further. Get up into the helicopter. Do what you need to do. Find a new mutual purpose that you can both genuinely care about. And when we're thinking about brainstorming, it's one of my favorite things, because remember, there is nothing silly about brainstorming. You just want to get everything out of the brain, everything out, just anything that is possible or not possible. Once mutual purpose is clear, when you're thinking about this, brainstorming actually feels collaborative, not competitive, because what you're doing is you've created a mutual purpose, and then it's like, well, how are we going to achieve this? When you're doing this, new ideas emerge because you are working together. You're not battling each other. And so brainstorming new strategies after you've built that mutual purpose is brilliant. So let's say, for example, you want a quiet weekend at home and your partner wants social events. And the old approach is that you argue. You're both at the weekend, but you argue over what you want to do. So you take a new approach. You use this strategy. I want a weekend where we both feel connected and recharged. Let us plan a mix that works for us both. So you're not arguing, you're acknowledging, you're respecting what each other needs for this coming weekend, and try and find that balance. When you're thinking about at work, you want to invest in training, and your CFO is saying, no, cut the budget, cut. Your old approach might be to fight for the spend, because that's usually what we do when we're discussing with a CFO, when they're wanting to cut, those budgets. You go in fight, you go in swinging, you go in justifying. So you try a new approach. We both want the business to thrive, right? So your mutual purpose, remember, that's a shared common goal. We both want the business to thrive. And the question, how can we invest in people in a way that fits our financial strategy too? When you find mutual purpose, it actually shifts the energy and it becomes positive. Solutions appear that would not exist, if you're stuck in this tug of war. So think of a conversation that has felt heavy, stuck, draining, right? And ask yourself, what do I want for me? What do I want for them? What do I want for the relationship? And a really important question is, have I been fighting for my strategy instead of seeking mutual purpose? Write it down. Clarity begins on paper. Simple as that. The more you can track, the more you can measure, the more that you can test and experiment and improve. So this week, pick up a real upcoming conversation. Before it happens, journal the 3 questions. What do I want for me? What do I want for them? What do I want for the relationship? Then set the tone early by stating a mutual purpose when you speak. Start early. Practice. Practice makes progress, remember? And the more you practice, the more confident you become. But when you set the tone early by stating that mutual purpose when you speak, watch what happens. Watch what happens when you stop fighting against each other and start fighting for each other, and you're going to propel forward. Because creating mutual purpose does not mean giving up on what matters to you. It doesn't. What it does, it means expanding the conversation to include what matters to both of you. It is not a compromise. It's a collaboration. Now, next week, we'll finally moving into Explore Others' Path. And that's when we're going to learn how to deeply listen without losing ourselves in the process. Now, until then, remember, mutual purpose is not the cherry on top. It's the foundation underneath. I will see you next time.